Hello and welcome to session number 6 for English 111, section 3001, College Success Skills. I, as always, am your host, Mr. Fowler, and I'm so happy that you're able to join us today. We have quite a few things to get into. Specifically today, I want to focus a little bit on that first essay assignment for this semester. So let me go ahead and begin, as I typically do, by introducing us to today's agenda. Okay, here I am as per usual in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and we're going to discuss session 6. Specifically, I'm going to take about 30 minutes of your time today just to discuss in detail your self-assessment essay project. A number of you have already been active in this week's discussion forums, talking about some of your concerns and raising some really good questions as relate to this particular assignment. I'm going to discuss the rubric. I'm going to go through an example of a successful draft of the assignment, and then I'm going to go ahead and open up for questions about that example. We'll wrap things up with some closing thoughts and questions, perhaps a reflection on what it is we're going to discuss for this particular assignment. For next time, Monday technically is a session for us, but I'm not going to post a session 7 post or discussion because I know I'm going to be busy, and I know that there's a good chance several of you will be busy given the Labor Day holiday. But I'll be back around Wednesday and Thursday in case you have some follow-up questions or some concerns. Okay, let's review real quickly. So in terms of last week's, earlier this week, we had session 5, and we talked about a unique chapter, Professors, Tasks, and You. I asked some follow-up questions. What's an assistant professor? What's an associate professor? Okay. Remember that just briefly, an assistant professor is kind of a newly minted instructor. They could be working for the first time in a college environment, or they could have been working for as many as 3 or 4 years in that same environment. An associate professor is a little bit more tenured. That's where Mr. Fowler falls into things. I am an associate professor. I've been working for about just over 10 years in higher education. I took a few dips out where I went back and worked at high school, and then I kind of ping-ponged back and forth between there as I was needed. They're different. Both associates and assistant professors are different in that a full professor is probably a published professor and likely even has a PhD. Almost all of your instructors at a college level will have an advanced degree, meaning they have a master's degree or other professional advanced degree. But no matter what type of instructor you have, they, of course, are going to assign various tasks to you. This is literally the stuff that instructors ask you to complete, or what you're evaluated on within the course of a given class structure. For this course, we have weekly discussion questions. We have a quiz that will focus on 8 specific topics throughout the semester, and we have a midterm and a final essay and this introductory essay, which we're going to discuss today. Each task that you will be assigned may require you to do some material that tasks you with a different level of understanding. And the types of levels of thinking that occur within a college classroom include the distinct levels of knowledge as described by Howard Gardner: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. I misspoke a moment ago. Those aren't Howard Gardner's thoughts. That's called Bloom's taxonomy. Oops, little mistake there. Bloom's taxonomy. And again, they address the various levels of thinking. Okay. So for today, just as a reminder, we're going to go over the self-assessment essay project. So the self-assessment essay is an opportunity for you to evaluate or self-evaluate your own skills, how prepared you are for the college experience. You're looking at the skills that you have currently and asking yourself, what are the strengths that I innately possess as a student? What are the deficits that I know I'm going to need to address in order to be successful? And then I want you to theorize about different ways that you could take advantage of some of the suggestions described in our text in order to meet the deficits. So what strategies could you use to overcome deficits or delinquencies in your learning? Now, a lot of you have said, I think one thing that will help is having the college textbook, right? College success strategies on hand. Well, yes, it can't hurt, but you actually don't need any source material for this first essay. You just need to write a little bit about your personal experiences. And I think seeing a student example will help you to sort of format and understand the approach that I have in mind for you to take. There are a couple of students who have reached out to me both via email and through the discussion forums, and they've asked some questions about whether or not they should get the textbook. And so I wanted to pause just for a moment to genuinely address that concern. It is a good idea to obtain the textbook for the class as soon as you can. That way, if you do have a professor who says, you're not really going to need that textbook as much as you would expect, you can return that to the bookstore to get, some money back. And if you do it within the first few weeks, you're probably can get all of that money back. Exchanges, by the way, if you ever need to exchange a book at the bookstore, they're pretty even. So if you just grab the wrong book or you want to exchange this book for a different one, they'll usually cover that without any issue. So those are a couple of things I wanted to touch on. Yes, you should get the book, especially for a class like this one. And generally speaking, you should try to get it earlier as soon as later in the semester. Okay, that's those are a couple of general announcements. Questions. So before I continue, I am joined by one student today. I know we're still working on a good time since this is an asynchronous class. We're working on a good time to find an opportunity for everybody to sort of engage. So Caitlin, before I continue on, do you have any other questions for me? Or just questions in general that you wanted to ask?
No, not right now.
Okay, if you do, don't be afraid to ask a question even in the midst of our discussion. So the first thing I'm going to share is just an example of the assignment itself. Okay. And this is just an example of the rubric. Now, as you said in our discussions before I began recording, this will be due around the 18th of September. So this is the second in which, on which we're making this recording. So this is in a couple of weeks. However, I want to point out two things. It's due by Friday, which means, yes, even though we are an asynchronous class, you can have up until Friday of that week to complete your assignment. You will have a chance to revise your initial draft and resubmit it with corrections by the 25th of September. You have up until midnight to do that. And the other thing is, number 2, you may submit it earlier if you feel more confident about your assessment. And you can see here that it's weighted at about 9% of your overall grade, a little bit less so than your final exam or the course reflection for the semester. So 25 points total for a length of 500 words or more. That's roughly equivalent to 2 pages. Now you might find that's a little lesser than 2 full pages, depends, but typically a Microsoft Word document formatted in a size 12 font with a Times New Roman theme and double spaced, okay, that all tends to equal about 250 words per Microsoft Word page. So it's an estimate of 500 words to be around 2 full pages. You may write more if you wish to do so, but you should write at least 500 words. Now, in addition to the size 12 and Times New Roman theme, in the upper left-hand corner of the assignment, I want you to create a single-space list of 4 lines. That will include your name, the name of the class, number 2. You'll also want to include the name of the assignment, self-assessment essay would be fine. And you want to include, lastly, your, the day that you turn that in. So ideally, September 18th. Could be earlier though, like I said. You should also include a page number in the upper right-hand corner, okay? And when you submit your assignment, I've been referring to Microsoft Word. You could use another program like WordPerfect or something like that. However, it does not do well with pages. I'm sorry, but that's to do with Desire to Learn. Desire to Learn, for some reason, cannot access or open a .pages document. So you might have to use an alternative. You could also submit that document in a rich text format document. But .pages and Google Docs is not a good way to submit them. Google Docs is okay, but what happens is students, this is an easy error to make. They'll submit a paper like around midnight on Friday, and they will have a Google Docs invitation sent out too, and it's like 2 hours long. Like, I'm not gonna be awake at midnight on Friday. I'll grade these Saturday afternoon probably. So usually that window expires before I can get a chance to read it. So go ahead and skip Google Docs for now. Okay. Of course, I should address, and I will address this note, the submissions for essays that are entirely or partially plagiarized will result in an automatic 0 for the assignment and a possible automatic 0 for the course. So this is a personal narrative essay for you. Fairly easy, but if you plagiarize, and number 1, that won't make too much sense. And number 2, you're really only cheating yourself at that point. And yes, I realize it says English 103. I also turn this assignment over to students of English 103. But that goes for saying, as a broad spectrum policy here at Kish and in most other community colleges and universities in the lower 48 contiguous states, and probably Alaska and Hawaii too. Okay, so what is the actual description? Here for this essay, you are going to compose an essay predicting the potential differences between college and high school or secondary school. There aren't any wrong answers, but In addition to differences you expect to discover, I want you to know any anxieties and or academic challenges that you feel might represent an obstacle in your course this semester. When you do discuss obstacles, try to include strategies that you plan to use in order to overcome them. Support your ideas with specific examples if you can. You may want to identify a particular project or assignment that you expect to do well in and explain why. You may also want to describe the source of your academic strengths and weaknesses. In other words, you might want to tell the story of how you acquired these skills, or even why or how you developed a bad habit academically. Feel free to incorporate any writing strategies you already know into this essay. For example, if you want to write a formally structured, persuasive essay, you can do that. Alternatively, and this is how most students prefer to handle the assignment, you may structure it as a narrative in which you tell the story of how you acquired your strengths and weaknesses. The essay has multiple purposes. Mainly, it gives you the opportunity to explore the course requirements and to make plans to meet those requirements that involve drawing on your strengths and addressing any deficits in your learning. Creating realistic strategies to address your learning issues will give me a chance to find out more about you as a student and what you may find valuable in this course. I can also get a sense of which writing skills you may need to focus on, either individually or as a collective group. For direct assistance planning this essay, you can arrange for a meeting or you can meet with a writing specialist in tutoring services. I've listed the office on campus and the phone number, but there's also a link, and I'll just stop sharing this for a moment and share something different with you. I'm just going to hop over here. Right here, there is some information. Where did that go? There's some information about tutoring. Yeah, here it is. The updated tutoring schedule, and you can make an appointment for the updated tutoring schedule at MyKC/ and I'm going to let this load for a second, students, resources/tutoring, or you can go to kish.academia.net, and you can actually get a arrange for a tutor, even online. And I'm just going to quickly download this schedule because we have a few moments here, and knowing the information would be good. Okay. So I'm going to share that with you real quickly. There it is, tutoring schedule. And let's see here. Online writing lab, look at that. Monday from 10 to 4, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to 4. And then it's 9 to 3, and then Wednesday 9 to 4. So I'll make sure that after we're done here today, I'll post that so that it will be available for everybody in case you want to go back and review it. Now, this raises our next question. What should the essay actually look like? Well, I'm going to show you right now. This is a self-assessment essay example that a student wrote just this past semester. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of this. Okay. So you can see in terms of the formatting that this is pretty clear. It's size 12, Times New Roman fonts. They have the 4-line list where instead of their name, I've created samples so that they can maintain their anonymity. They have class, English 103, 3001. They have the class and the section number. You just have to have the class number. That'll be fine. I only have one section this semester of college success skills, so that'll be okay. And then they have the title of the assignment, self-assessment essay, in the day that it was due for them during the summer semester. And then they have a distinct and separate original title. This is usually the thing I create last. And I recommend that if you struggle with creating unique and individual titles, that you save your title for the end as well. Notice that it is in plain text. It's not highlighted, it's not in bold, or it's not put into quotation marks. Just a simple title that you can use for your own individual essay. Additionally, you can see the page numbers up here on the upper right-hand corner where I requested that they be placed. Now, since this example is already posted on Desire to Learn, I'm not going to read through the entire piece. I'll let you do that on your own time. But I just wanted to point out that even though the requirement was for 500 words, this was 619 words, and it was about 2 full pages. If I highlight this text and just check the word count on it, that's 493. So that's pretty close. So as you can see, 493, or about 500 words, is about this much. So it's technically a second page. It might not be a full second page, but pretty darn close. Okay, let's look at the introduction. The student uses a typical funnel-shaped introduction where general information is introduced at the beginning and that funnels down to a specific thesis statement. As with most things she writes, practice makes perfect when it comes to writing. That's a nice hook or sentence attention-grabbing statement. I've had a lot of practice throughout my 32 years on this earth, but I will always have room for improvement. Then enters English 103, stage left. I feel as though this class will smooth rough edges I was unaware I had with my writing. Knowing you can always improve is so important to me and my lifelong commitment to learning. So although I do think that my writing is proficient, as is, my inner scientist is telling me that this is not possible and to check my ego at the door. No one's perfect, and while fairly close, I'm no exception. So this student has a little bit of bravura working here. And as I note here, I suggest the use of a colon in that second sentence to avoid structuring a fragment. That way you can retain your voice as a writer and make a dramatic overture and still be grammatically sound to do so. So yes, when you are writing this essay, do keep grammar in the back of your mind. This isn't a strictly grammatical or English-based writing class, but being aware of your grammar is, I think, something that's appreciated by your instructors in every field. Here I'm going to get a little student participation going. Caitlin, how do you find that works? Are you often surprised that teachers or other instructors that are not in a writing or English class will address grammar concerns?
Not really, because when I was in high school, I had like a really strict English teacher. So everything compared to that is not, it doesn't seem like as strict.
Well, that's good, I suppose. Yeah, we all meet that English or that writing taskmaster at some point in our academic careers. I hope you don't feel that I'm, of course, we're early in the semester, but I hope that you, Caitlin, or other people viewing this in the future don't find me to be such a strict taskmaster when it comes to grammar, but somewhere along the line, you'll run into somebody that is. At least that's my experience. Okay, going back to the sample here. Her thesis statement is a little bit awkward. It's kind of interesting, but basically she says that nobody's perfect. And even though she's close, at least in her humble opinion, she also is not perfect. So we'll get to see how that evolves as a topic throughout the course of the rest of the essay. Now, she notes a couple of specific issues right away. She says that I definitely have a looming obstacle in terms of time management. So this is not necessarily a writing related issue or theme, but it is a theme that we're going to talk about very soon in the course, which is how to use effective scheduling to manage stress. So she writes, I have a looming obstacle in time management. Meeting deadlines has always been a huge issue for me. I think a lot of us can probably relate to that. She says, when I was in school, she had honors English and was usually the type of person that did well with a minimal effort. Okay. And that's interesting as well. That's also not, an issue restricted to writing courses. In fact, your text explains that one of the key things that you may need to adjust when you transition from high school into college is that studying may be different. You may find yourself studying less for certain subjects or more depending upon your interest level and your familiarity with that content. She says another issue, this is the third kind of body point or third main point in the body paragraphs that she brings up. And I'm going to kind of interpret this one. She writes the following. Another issue I have with writing is getting stuck at the crossroads between two ideas, or how one idea can go one way or the other based on what the assignment was to begin with. Again, thinking about our text, this is another great example of something our authors bring up, which is that when you're thinking about tasks, one of the things that is clearly necessary is to understand what the expectations for a task actually are. And they list in your text a whole host of suggestions about how to get information about a task. One of the first ones is to try to attend class frequently. Number two is pay special attention and take notes whenever the instructor is talking about a project or an assignment. Number two, they suggest that you get notes if you can't be at a lecture, or maybe even seek out a former student who has taken that class and who has had a successful time in it. That's a great idea if you can manage to do that. With COVID right now, it's a little bit shaky on how to reach former students and how to connect to people in general. So that one's going to be a little tougher. But those are four distinct strategies that they talk about in terms of how to get more information. The last one is just check your syllabus. And our syllabus has a pretty decent scheduling tool or technique, which is odd. I hear a lot of people talking about the need for a checklist or a time and due dates, but it's right there in the syllabus. So I'll go ahead and construct a course calendar, but there are lots of places to look for when materials are due. But anyhow, that is an issue that our student writer addresses. So understanding what's being asked for a particular assignment, understanding what is being asked for a particular assignment. Okay. And she says that her end goal is to come out of the class stronger and more as a more proficient writer. So again, she has that triangular conclusion where she starts by restating the thesis. There's room for improvement, in other words. And then she goes from specific to more generalized detail to refresh our minds as an audience of what it was she meant to do in constructing this essay. Working on the structure of the writing will kill the time management and forming idea birds with one stone. So focusing on structure is one suggestion that she has to address her concerns. Relearning proper English and grammar will help make her writing less casual and more formal. Agreed. And she says overall, she feels very confident that she'll benefit from the course. You know, and that's a nice conclusion. She kind of ends on a joke. Either way, either that or I'll want my money back. I'm fine with either, but she prefers the former. Prefers the former. Mix that up. Anyway, I gave a little bit of feedback. Student, you create a strong initial draft, review the comments above, and attend to at least some of the suggested changes for the final revision of this essay. She had a couple of missing comments here. And on comment number 4, I just said, you raise a good point. Good peer review partners can help a writer develop a paper substantively. So that's just a brief look at a sample. Like I said, that sample is posted and available in Desire to Learn if you want to go back and read the full example for yourselves. The only thing I think that this student could have done a little bit better is to have spent just a bit more time describing her strategies for success. And since she was already verbose, she really didn't need to do that to such an extent as to cover the differential between what she wanted to write and the 500-word requirement. So that's a great way to expand your paper in a meaningful fashion. If you find that you've said everything you want to say and you come up short of 500 words, go back and revisit the strategies that you have planned to address your deficits and how you might be able to take advantage of some of these techniques to improve your overall student success. Okay, I've been talking a lot today, so I'm going to pause for a few minutes here. Caitlin, you're still my only student for this session. Gonna have to find that sweet spot whenever more people are available. But any initial questions for me or things I could back up on or be more specific about?
I think I'm good for right now.
Okay. Did the example help a little bit? Do you feel more confident about constructing your own essay now?
Yeah, when like there's a lot of examples, because then I can see like the comments that the teacher made and like how to fix it and how to not, like, if they messed up on something, then I know not to do that on my own essay.
Yeah, that's good feedback.
So it helped a lot.
Excellent, excellent. I have one more question about the essay, the example that we looked at. Would it be helpful if you had some additional examples? Would more examples of the same type of thing help out?
Yeah.
Okay.
As many as you can give, I'll take them all.
Okay. Well, then I will load up a few additional examples after we're done with today's session. I can do that. That's really easy for me. Okay, let's see here. Share this back to our home page. So again, we've gone over the example. We've gone over the rubric. Don't forget this week, students, if you are watching this in the future, that we do have both a week 3 discussion asking you to free write for about 15 minutes regarding the self-assessment project. Where can you find it? What are your chief concerns? What additional resources do you feel you may need to be successful? And then also we have a quiz due by this Friday, quiz number 2, covering material from chapters 2 through 4. There are 16 questions, 20 points, I believe. So I'm going to head back to our home or announcements page. Whoops. I'll go to course home page. And we'll just close with a reflection. This week, we're sort of completing the initial phase of the class where we've discussed what it is that we need to understand about how we learn, what our learning strengths are, and we've already discussed a few ways to address any deficits that we may have in our learning style. We've also learned a little bit about the class itself and what the first year of college experience can be like for new students. We talked about the different types of professors, or levels rather, of professors that you may encounter in your educational journey and how to relate to them a little bit more humanly. We've also discussed ways that we can interpret and seek clarification on specific tasks that are assigned to us as students. So the first week, or this first third of the class, will end next week, and we'll move from a focus of how do I relate to college to, okay, now that I have some ideas about how I learn and how I can improve my situation, what are some specific tools I can use? And we'll start with time management and dealing with stress, because those two ideas I find are really closely integrated to one another. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about next week. Okay, I'll be on tomorrow on Thursday, just offering some chances to Zoom and answer questions, and I'll be active in the discussion forums for the rest of this week. I won't have a session posting for Labor Day, but we'll be back again by Wednesday or Thursday of next week. Caitlin, any last questions or concerns before we sign off for today?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
You are so welcome. So until next time, this is Mr. Fowler signing off. I bid you all the best, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everyone.